Hi everyone, my name is Sarahi COF, and we have never had greater access to knowledge than we do right now. Limitless information is just a few clicks away, and the line between man and machine is increasingly less clear. There is a reason why computers haven't reached a human level of intelligence yet, and it has nothing to do on how the computer works. It's because humans have something that computers don't, and something that is a pretty significant component of intelligence. The critical element is creativity. Results from the Torrance test, an exam that measures an aspect of creativity called divergent thinking, have been decreasingly, while SAT scores are increasing. So we can conclude that human beings are becoming more intelligent, but not necessarily more creative. The major claim of this speech is that the excessive use of technology is preventing human beings from using their creativity. To support my argument, I will state how technology causes people to stop using their cognitive skills, how technology also affects our problem-solving skills, and lastly, how technology is limiting young people to develop their creativity. So let's move on to the first point. Technology causes people to stop using their cognitive skills. We rely on technology to find the driving route we should take, so our spatial skills gradually start to worsen. 25 years after, one of the creators of the GPS, Professor Brad Parkinson, told the BBC company that even though he was one of the creators, he still prefers to use maps to find his way around. And it's because when we use GPS, we remember less the places we go to, and we put less information and less emphasis on generating our internal picture of the world. As part of our cognitive skill is the ability of people to read and write, which has shown a drastic decline, and both activities develop the imagination. A recent study conducted by neuroscientist Gregory Burns, director of Emory University Center for Neuropolicy in Atlanta, reflected that reading improves the reader's ability to put themselves in other people's shoes, and that way they increase their imagination. According to this study, readers said things like, "It's better for me to imagine things in my head than watching on TV." One of the problems of watching television is that it reduces the theory of mind, which is the ability to attribute mental states, like beliefs, intents, desires, or knowledge. Technology not only has a negative effect in our cognitive skills, it also affects our problem-solving skills, an important component of our creativity. We use creativity when we are presented with a new problem and we need to figure out the best course of action. Adrian West, a computer science lecturer at the University of Manchester, states that the wealth of communications and information can easily overwhelm our reasoning abilities. So the point of this is that even though we have big amount of information and data, doesn't mean that we have greater knowledge or better decision-making skills. In addition to these, we are constantly connected to social media that prevents people from getting a deeper understanding of information. Michael Bujeha, director of the Greenlee School of Journalism and Communication at Iowa State University of Science and Technology, says, "The technology distraction level is accelerating to the point where thinking deeply is difficult. We are overwhelmed by a constant barrage of devices and tasks. So it's really hard to focus on solving problems when we're texting or watching YouTube videos at the same time." To finalize supporting my argument, I will explain how technology is also limiting young people to develop their creativity. Children now rely on technology for the majority of their play, creating huge challenges on their creativity and their imagination. A 2010 Kaiser Foundation study revealed that the average young person spends up to 10,000 hours playing video and online games by age 20. That's about the same amount of time that they devote to their middle and high school years. There is no more playing outside, inventing new games, and this is also producing negative results in their academic performance. So today I talk to you about how technology is making us stop using our cognitive skills by relying on our phones for most of our everyday activities, like driving to places. Technology is also preventing us from using our creativity to generate original ideas to solve our problems, And even worse is making young generations to stop exercising their faith. In general, technology is preventing human beings to stop using their creativity.
All right. Well, let's go the opposite direction that we've been going. Well, let's start kind of with the presentation. I thought you did a pretty good job on the presentation. You speak to us for the most part. There are a couple of places where I think your transitions need to be clearer. When you got to the second point, for instance, fortunately I had been listening to your preview, so I knew you were on the second point, but remember, not everybody is as careful a listener as I might be on occasion, and so you want to help them out a little bit. I thought that it was easier to see when you got to the third point. You did have the label for your point there, but you need some transition language so that people know that you have moved from the earlier subject. On the evidence, I think that you have excellent expert testimony on a lot of the arguments that you're presenting, but you're really dependent on the expert testimony and the opinion of those folks, but there's not much documentation that they are correct. So there's a couple of places where you suggest that people are being less creative or they're less successful academically, and what measure do we have except that some person says that that is the case? I know why they believe that is the case, because that's basically what their opinion really is, and that's where I think their testimony is valuable. But when they're making the inference then that it's had some consequence, I think we need to have some data from them that backs that up, and I didn't hear anything that would sort of fit in that category. That doesn't mean there isn't some of that information, but it didn't make it into the speech. Like I said, the internal signpost, you had the one little problem. So I think you needed a little bit more statistical data to demonstrate that we've had some of the problems that you're talking about. For example, the closest that you come to the statistical data is that you've got this thing that says on average we've spent 10,000 hours playing video games by the time we reach age 20. And I'm going, okay, so does that mean that there isn't time for something else? Something else has suffered 10,000 hours worth of loss, and can you show us what that is and what the consequence of it is? I think probably your inference here is that part of it is that we're not spending time on creativity. Part of it is that we're not learning to apply our cognitive skills like in schools, because we're playing World of Warcraft or whatever the heck it is that people are spending all their time on. But I think you need to have a couple of examples and, like I said, any kind of statistical information to back that up. All right, and then at the beginning of the speech, the proposition's clearly identified. There's an excellent layout of the content. I didn't think there was any problem understanding what your argument is. I just think that sometimes it's a little esoteric and not really measurable. All right, thank you.